Most people believe that after the age of 70, building muscle is nearly impossible, that the body simply doesn't respond the way it used to. But emerging science tells us that's not true. In fact, new research suggests that certain plant-based proteins can be just as effective, and sometimes even superior to traditional sources like eggs when it comes to supporting muscle growth, preserving strength, and extending longevity. Today we're going to explore one remarkable vegetable protein that could change the way we think about muscle health in older adults. This isn't about quick fixes or supplements. This is about tapping into the biology of aging and using the right nutrition to turn on the body's natural ability to rebuild and protect muscle, even in your 70s and beyond. Let's uncover why this one food might be a better choice than eggs for maintaining muscle, protecting independence, and ultimately adding healthy years to your life. Asterisk. As we move into our 70s, one of the most profound biological changes we experience is the loss of muscle mass and strength, a process known as sarcopenia. This is not a minor issue or just about looking frail. It is one of the biggest predictors of independence, vitality, and ultimately lifespan. When muscle fades, everything from walking across the room to climbing a flight of stairs becomes harder, falls become more likely. Recovery from illness takes longer. Even metabolic health is compromised, because muscle is one of the body's most important regulators of blood sugar and energy balance. For decades, sarcopenia was seen as an inevitable part of aging. Doctors used to say, after 70 it's normal to get weaker, but the reality is more nuanced. Yes, muscle decline accelerates after this age, but biology shows us that it is not destiny. The rate and extent of muscle loss depend heavily on lifestyle factors, diet, physical activity, and even the timing of protein intake. In other words, your body is still listening to what you feed it, how you move it, and the signals you give it, even late in life. So what actually drives this loss of muscle after 70? Several interconnected processes are at play. First, there is a natural decline in anabolic signaling, the body's ability to activate muscle protein synthesis. Think of it as the on switch that tells your cells to build rather than break down muscle. This switch is activated by amino acids, particularly leucine, and by exercise. As we age, this signal becomes less sensitive. You may eat the same protein-rich meal you enjoyed in your 50s, but your muscle cells don't respond as strongly in your 70s. This phenomenon is called anabolic resistance. Second, mitochondrial decline contributes significantly. Mitochondria are the energy factories of your cells, and muscle tissue is especially dependent on them. With age, mitochondrial function becomes less efficient, leading to less energy for muscle repair and growth. At the same time, oxidative stress and low-grade inflammation, often called inflammaging, accelerate muscle breakdown. This inflammation doesn't come from injury or infection, but from subtle, chronic stress at the cellular level, driven by aging pathways, poor diet, and lack of movement. Hormonal changes also play a role. Testosterone, estrogen, and growth hormone all decline with age, and these hormones are deeply connected to muscle maintenance. While hormone replacement is one approach, it comes with risks, and lifestyle strategies often deliver more sustainable, safer results. Importantly, newer research shows that nutrition, particularly the type of protein consumed, can offset some of these hormonal declines by directly activating the cellular machinery of muscle growth. Now, here's the hopeful part. Studies are showing that muscle remains remarkably plastic even in the 8th and 9th decades of life. In one clinical trial, individuals in their late 70s who began resistance training and improved protein intake gained measurable increases in both muscle mass and strength. Their bodies responded, albeit more slowly than those of younger participants. But the principle was clear: muscle loss is not irreversible. The signals may be weaker, but they are still there waiting to be activated. Why does this matter so much for longevity? Muscle is far more than just tissue for movement. It acts as a metabolic reservoir. The more muscle you maintain, the better your body handles glucose, the more insulin sensitive you remain, and the lower your risk of type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular disease. In fact, researchers now consider skeletal muscle an endocrine organ. It secretes molecules called myokines, which communicate with the brain, liver, and immune system. Maintaining strong muscles means maintaining a strong, balanced internal signaling network that touches nearly every organ system. After 70, though, the margin for error becomes narrower. A few days in bed due to illness or injury can wipe out significant amounts of muscle, and rebuilding it becomes harder. That's why prevention and daily habits are critical. This is not about becoming a bodybuilder in your 70s. It's about building enough muscle to sustain independence, avoid falls, and keep metabolism humming. Even modest improvements in muscle strength can dramatically lower the risk of hospitalization and mortality. Nutrition plays a central role here. Historically, animal proteins, such as eggs, dairy, and meat, have been considered the gold standard for muscle health because of their complete amino acid profiles. But emerging research is reshaping this view. Certain plant proteins, soy in particular, are showing comparable, and in some cases, superior effects on muscle synthesis in older adults. These proteins provide the essential amino acids needed to overcome anabolic resistance, while also delivering compounds that lower inflammation and improve overall metabolic function. This is where the conversation shifts from inevitable decline to active preservation. What excites me most, as someone who studies aging at the cellular level, is how nutrition and lifestyle can reprogram these pathways, even late in life. When older adults consume high-quality proteins, especially in the right amounts and timing, they send powerful growth signals to their muscles. Pair that with resistance exercise, even something as simple as chair squats, light dumbbells, or resistance bands, and you create the perfect environment for muscle maintenance. It's a biological truth. The body adapts to the signals you give it, no matter your age. This is not to say the decline doesn't happen. It does, but decline can be slowed sometimes dramatically. Imagine two 75-year-olds. One eats a diet low in protein, avoids strength training, and spends long hours sitting. The other makes sure to consume enough protein, focuses on sources rich in leucine, and engages in regular resistance exercise. Their outcomes over the next decade will be radically different. One will likely experience rapid decline, falls, frailty, and hospitalizations. The other will remain mobile, independent, and biologically younger than their chronological age. So when we talk about building muscle after 70, we are not just talking about vanity or aesthetics. We are talking about extending life, preserving autonomy, and protecting the very systems that keep us resilient. The science tells us that sarcopenia is not inevitable, it is modifiable. And the most powerful tools to fight it, nutrition, exercise, and daily habits, are already in our hands. For generations, eggs have been seen as the quintessential protein source. They are inexpensive, widely available, and contain all 9 essential amino acids in proportions that the body can easily use. Nutrition science has long referred to eggs as the gold standard of protein quality. If you wanted to build muscle or maintain strength, eggs were often at the top of the list. But as we take a deeper look through the lens of aging and longevity, the story becomes more complex, and in some cases, surprising. The first question we need to ask is, what exactly are we trying to achieve when we talk about protein in the context of aging? It's not simply about feeding muscles, it's about activating the pathways that encourage muscle synthesis while minimizing the risks that can shorten lifespan. Eggs certainly provide amino acids, particularly leucine, which is critical for triggering muscle growth, but they also come with baggage that isn't always ideal for someone in their 70s or beyond. One of the concerns lies in cholesterol and saturated fat. A single egg yolk contains about 186 milligrams of cholesterol, while the debate over dietary cholesterol has evolved and eggs in moderation are no longer seen as universally harmful. The cumulative effect of high cholesterol intake may still pose problems for older adults who are already at increased risk of heart disease. Cardiovascular health and muscle health are deeply intertwined. Maintaining strong arteries and good blood flow is just as important for muscle repair as it is for brain and heart function. If the goal is longevity, then we must look not only at muscle benefits, but also at long-term cardiovascular outcomes. Another aspect often overlooked is how animal proteins, including eggs, interact with aging pathways such as IGF-1 and mTOR. Both of these are growth-related signals in the body. When we are young, activating them helps us grow and build tissue. But in later life, constant stimulation of these pathways can accelerate aging and increase the risk of diseases like cancer. This doesn't mean we should avoid protein altogether, far from it. It means the type of protein and the balance we strike become critical. We want to provide enough anabolic stimulation to preserve muscle, but not so much that we drive disease-promoting pathways into overdrive. This is where plant proteins begin to stand out. Soy protein, for example, is a complete plant protein that rivals eggs in terms of essential amino acid content, including leucine. Multiple studies have shown that soy protein can stimulate muscle protein synthesis to a similar degree as animal proteins when consumed in sufficient amounts. But unlike eggs, soy comes with additional compounds that support longevity, isoflavones, which act as phytoestrogens and antioxidants, and a profile that tends to lower cholesterol rather than raise it. For older adults, balancing muscle health with cardiovascular and metabolic health, this makes soy uniquely powerful. Let's consider inflammation. Low-grade chronic inflammation. Inflammaging is a major contributor to muscle decline and overall aging. Animal proteins, particularly those rich in certain fats, can promote inflammatory pathways. Plant proteins, on the other hand, often deliver anti-inflammatory compounds alongside their amino acids. This dual action not only supports muscle but also calms the internal environment in which muscles grow and repair. Think of it as giving your body both the raw materials and the right conditions for construction. We should also talk about digestion and absorption. As we age, digestion becomes less efficient. Some older adults develop sensitivities to animal proteins or struggle with their digestibility. Plant proteins, particularly when they are isolated or fermented, can be easier on the digestive system. Fermented soy, such as tempeh, is not only rich in protein but also delivers probiotics and improved nutrient absorption. For someone in their 70s who may already be dealing with reduced appetite or digestive changes, this can make the difference between consistently meeting protein needs or falling short. There is also a broader ecological and ethical dimension. While this doesn't directly affect individual longevity, it's worth noting that plant proteins are more sustainable. Many people in their later years are beginning to think about the legacy they leave behind, not only for their families but also for the planet. Choosing plant proteins over animal proteins contributes to a more sustainable food system, and for some that alignment with personal values adds to psychological well-being, an often underestimated factor in health and longevity. It's important not to demonize eggs entirely. They are nutrient-dense, providing vitamins like B12 and choline, which support brain health. For someone with limited access to diverse foods, eggs can still be an important part of the diet. But what the latest science makes clear is that eggs are not unmatched. Plant proteins like soy, pea, and even emerging sources such as fava bean or lupin protein can deliver equal or greater benefits for muscle health while offering additional longevity advantages. Imagine two 75-year-olds. One relies heavily on eggs as their main protein source, while the other incorporates soy milk in their breakfast, adds tofu or tempeh to lunch, and uses a plant protein shake after exercise. Both are consuming enough protein, but their bodies are responding differently. The second individual is not only stimulating muscle growth, but also reducing cholesterol, lowering inflammation, and engaging longevity pathways in a way that supports long-term health. Over a decade, those small daily differences compound into a significant divergence in outcomes. One may struggle with cardiovascular issues, while the other enjoys stronger muscles and healthier arteries. The key insight is this. When we talk about protein after 70, the conversation must expand beyond simple muscle synthesis. We need to ask, what else does this protein do to the body? Does it promote or reduce inflammation? Does it raise or lower cholesterol? Does it push aging pathways forward or hold them back? Eggs check some boxes, but raise concerns in others. Plant proteins, particularly soy, increasingly look like the more balanced option for those who want not just more years, but better years. The science of aging teaches us that no single food or nutrient determines our fate. It is the pattern, the signals we consistently give our bodies that shape how we age. Choosing plant proteins over eggs doesn't mean giving up an old favorite entirely. It means shifting the foundation toward foods that align with the biology of longevity, proteins that nourish muscle without taxing the heart, that build strength while calming inflammation, and that support not only survival but vitality well into our later decades. Among the many plant-based proteins available, one has consistently stood out in scientific research for its unique ability to support both muscle health and longevity: soy protein. Unlike many plant proteins, soy is what we call a complete protein. This means it provides all 9 essential amino acids, the building blocks that the body cannot produce on its own and must obtain from food. For older adults, especially those in their 70s and beyond, this completeness is critical. At a time when the body's efficiency in using protein declines due to anabolic resistance, supplying the full spectrum of amino acids becomes even more important. One of the keys to soy's effectiveness is its leucine content. Leucine is a branched-chain amino acid that acts as a trigger for muscle protein synthesis. Think of it as the ignition switch that tells your muscles it's time to grow and repair. While animal proteins like eggs and meat are often praised for their leucine levels, soy contains a comparable amount, enough to activate this crucial pathway when consumed in adequate quantities. For someone over 70, that activation is exactly what helps counter the muscle decline of aging. But soy goes beyond simply matching animal proteins. It brings with it additional compounds that make it particularly suited to the biology of aging. Isoflavones, naturally occurring compounds in soy, act as phytoestrogens, plant-based molecules that can lightly bind to estrogen receptors in the body. For men and women alike, these compounds can have balancing effects on hormones, reducing risks associated with age-related hormonal decline. Importantly, isoflavones also act as antioxidants, reducing oxidative stress that damages muscle and other tissues. Research has repeatedly highlighted soy's dual role, providing the amino acids necessary for muscle synthesis, while also lowering cholesterol and improving cardiovascular health. A meta-analysis of over 30 trials found that soy protein consumption significantly lowered LDL cholesterol levels. This matters because strong muscles require strong circulation. A protein source that nourishes muscle while also protecting arteries is essentially doing double duty for longevity. Eggs, as discussed earlier, cannot make that same claim. Another remarkable feature of soy is its impact on insulin sensitivity. As we age, many of us become less efficient at using insulin, leading to higher blood sugar levels and increased risk of type 2 diabetes. Skeletal muscle is one of the largest sinks for glucose in the body. When muscle is healthy, it pulls sugar out of the bloodstream efficiently. Soy protein appears to improve this process by enhancing insulin sensitivity. By combining muscle growth with better blood sugar control, soy protein becomes a powerful ally against 2 of the biggest threats to aging well: sarcopenia and metabolic disease. What's striking is that the benefits of soy protein are not confined to laboratory studies or isolated clinical trials. Real-world populations that consume soy regularly, such as in Japan and certain regions of China, show lower rates of cardiovascular disease, stronger health profiles into older age, and often longer lifespans. These aren't just cultural or genetic differences. Diet plays a profound role, and soy is a cornerstone of those dietary patterns. For practical use, soy is also remarkably versatile. Tofu, tempeh, soy milk, soy protein powder, and even whole soybeans, edamame, offer different textures and culinary applications, making it easy to integrate into daily meals. Tofu can be scrambled, like eggs, or grilled as a savory protein. Tempeh, being fermented, adds additional gut health benefits. Soy milk can be substituted for cow's milk, adding protein without the saturated fat, and soy protein powders can be mixed into smoothies for a convenient digestible protein boost after exercise. This adaptability ensures that people in their 70s can meet their protein needs without relying solely on animal sources. Some critics have raised concerns about soy, particularly regarding hormones, thyroid health, or cancer risk, but the bulk of scientific evidence has largely dispelled these fears. For example, large-scale studies have shown that soy consumption is associated with reduced risk of breast and prostate cancer, not an increased risk. Soy's phytoestrogens are far weaker than human estrogen and tend to act as modulators, providing balance rather than overstimulation. As for thyroid health, Issues typically arise only in the context of iodine deficiency, which is uncommon in populations with access to iodized salt or sea vegetables. The bigger picture is clear. Soy protein provides the benefits of animal proteins without many of the drawbacks, and it adds longevity-supporting properties that animal protein simply cannot. In terms of aging biology, soy not only supports the anabolic pathways needed to preserve muscle, but also engages longevity pathways that reduce inflammation, improve vascular health, and enhance metabolic stability. That combination is rare and invaluable for someone over 70. Imagine an older adult who decides to swap their daily breakfast of fried eggs and bacon for a bowl of steel-cut oats, topped with soy milk, flax seeds, and a side of tempeh. At first the change might seem modest, but at the cellular level, the differences are profound. Instead of cholesterol surging after breakfast, LDL levels trend lower. Instead of an inflammatory spike, the body receives antioxidants. Instead of missing opportunities to activate muscle protein synthesis, leucine from soy triggers it efficiently. Day after day, these choices compound, shaping a body that is stronger, more resilient, and biologically younger than its chronological age. The significance of soy is not just in its amino acid profile, but in how it aligns with the deeper biology of longevity. Most people in their 70s worry about frailty, falls, and dependence on others. But beneath those concerns is a larger truth. Muscle is the foundation of independence, and independence is the foundation of a meaningful later life. By choosing soy protein, not necessarily as an exclusive protein, but as a cornerstone, older adults can feed their muscles while feeding the very systems that keep them alive and thriving. In the end, the star vegetable protein is not just about building muscle. It is about reprogramming aging pathways, reducing disease risk, and giving the body what it needs to stay functional and vibrant for longer. Soy demonstrates that the right protein source can be both a muscle builder and a longevity enhancer. It shifts the paradigm from just maintaining in old age to actively thriving. That is the real promise of soy protein, not simply to equal eggs, but to surpass them in the quest for strength and life beyond 70. When we talk about protein, the conversation often revolves around muscle, and rightly so. Muscle is essential for movement, strength, and independence, especially as we age, but to focus solely on muscle misses the larger story. The type of protein we consume doesn't just affect our muscles, it influences the entire network of aging pathways in the body. The right protein can help protect the heart, regulate blood sugar, calm inflammation, and even affect cellular processes linked to lifespan. This is where plant proteins, particularly soy, begin to show advantages that extend far beyond simple muscle preservation. Let's start with the heart, because cardiovascular disease remains the leading cause of death worldwide, particularly in older adults. The state of our arteries and blood vessels often determines not just how long we live, but how well we live. Soy protein has been shown repeatedly to lower LDL cholesterol and improve arterial function. One large review by the American Heart Association concluded that consuming around 25 grams of soy protein daily could significantly reduce cholesterol levels. For someone in their 70s, this matters deeply. Strong arteries are necessary for efficient circulation, and circulation is what delivers oxygen and nutrients to muscles, the brain, and every other organ. In contrast, diets heavily reliant on animal proteins such as eggs, meat, and dairy often bring higher levels of cholesterol and saturated fat, which can impair vascular health over time. Choosing soy protein, therefore, means supporting both strong muscles and strong arteries, two sides of the same longevity coin. Next, we need to talk about inflammation. One of the hallmarks of aging is what scientists call inflammaging, a persistent, low-grade inflammation that subtly damages tissues and accelerates disease. It's not the same as the acute inflammation you get from an infection or injury. It's quieter, chronic, and far more insidious. Animal proteins, particularly red meat and processed meat, tend to promote this kind of inflammation, while soy protein and other plant-based proteins appear to lower it. Isoflavones in soy act as antioxidants, neutralizing free radicals before they can damage cells. Reducing inflammation is about more than comfort or avoiding stiffness. It directly impacts the risk of Alzheimer's disease, heart attacks, and even cancer, By choosing a protein that calms inflammation, older adults are not just feeding their muscles but actively slowing down the clockwork of biological aging. Now consider metabolism. As we age, insulin sensitivity tends to decline. This makes it harder for the body to regulate blood sugar, and eventually it can lead to type 2 diabetes. Skeletal muscle plays a central role here because it is the body's largest sink for glucose. The more muscle you have, and the healthier it is, the better your blood sugar control. Soy protein contributes on two fronts. It supports muscle maintenance and improves insulin sensitivity directly. Studies have shown that individuals consuming soy protein have lower fasting blood glucose and improved markers of insulin function compared to those consuming animal proteins. This is critical because metabolic disease doesn't just shorten life expectancy, it diminishes quality of life, increasing the risk of neuropathy, kidney disease, and vision loss. Plant proteins like soy help close that gap by stabilizing one of the body's most fundamental systems, energy regulation. Beyond these physiological effects, soy and other plant proteins may also influence deeper cellular processes that regulate longevity. Pathways like M2 and IGF-1, which are stimulated by protein intake, are essential for growth, but also tightly linked to aging and disease risk. Animal proteins tend to drive these pathways more strongly, which can be beneficial for muscle growth, but may accelerate aging when overstimulated. Plant proteins, in contrast, appear to offer a gentler signal, strong enough to trigger muscle synthesis when needed, but not so aggressive that they keep growth pathways permanently switched on. This balance may explain why populations consuming more plant proteins tend to live longer and have lower rates of age-related diseases. It's worth pointing out that longevity is not simply the absence of disease. It is about the presence of vitality, the ability to climb stairs without fatigue, to remember names in conversations, to enjoy meals with friends, and to live without constant medical intervention. Soy protein contributes to this vision of longevity by acting systemically. It lowers cholesterol, reduces inflammation, improves metabolic health, and nourishes muscle. Each of these benefits alone would be meaningful, but together they create a synergistic effect that touches nearly every aspect of aging. Let's make this tangible. Imagine two older adults in their 70s, both committed to maintaining muscle. One relies heavily on animal proteins, eating eggs every morning and meat with dinner. The other incorporates soy milk into their breakfast, uses tofu or tempeh in meals, and occasionally supplements with soy protein shakes. Both maintain decent muscle mass, but their long-term trajectories diverge. The first individual may keep their strength, but faces higher risks of cardiovascular disease, metabolic issues, and chronic inflammation. The second not only preserves strength, but also benefits from improved vascular health, stable blood sugar, and lower systemic inflammation. Over 10 years, the difference in independence, hospitalizations, and overall quality of life becomes enormous. This is the crux of the argument. Longevity is not about a single outcome like muscle size or cholesterol numbers. It is about integrating multiple systems so that they work in harmony. The human body is not a collection of isolated parts. It is a deeply interconnected network. A protein source that strengthens one system while weakening another is not truly optimal. A protein like soy, however, strengthens multiple systems simultaneously, creating resilience that is especially valuable after 70. It is easy to think of muscle as the end goal, but in truth it is the gateway to something larger. Maintaining muscle protects against falls and frailty, yes, but the protein we choose to maintain it also shapes our arteries, our metabolism, and even our cellular health. By selecting plant-based proteins, we are not only feeding muscles, we are feeding longevity itself. That is why soy protein is more than a dietary choice. It is a longevity strategy. The science is compelling, but science only matters if it can be translated into daily action. Knowing that soy protein can rival and in many ways surpass eggs for building muscle and supporting longevity is one thing. The real question is, how do you make it part of everyday life, especially after 70, when appetite may decline, digestion changes, and habits are often deeply ingrained? This is where practical integration becomes essential. It's not enough to understand the theory. We need strategies that work in real kitchens, in real routines, and for real people who want to stay strong and independent as they age. The first step is recognizing that protein intake should not be left to chance. After 70, the body becomes less efficient at using protein because of anabolic resistance, meaning we need slightly more than younger adults to trigger the same response in muscle. While someone in their 30s might get by with 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight, older adults often need closer to 1.2 to 1.5 grams per kilogram. For a 75-year-old weighing 70 kilograms, that translates to roughly 85 to 100 grams of protein a day. That's not a small amount, and hitting that target requires planning. Soy protein can help fill this gap efficiently. Unlike many plant proteins that require careful combining to ensure all essential amino acids are present, soy is complete. That makes it flexible. It can be used at breakfast, lunch, dinner, or even as a snack without worrying about missing key nutrients. A glass of soy milk provides around 7 grams of protein. A serving of tofu offers 10 to 15 grams. A scoop of soy protein powder can deliver 20 grams or more. By weaving these into meals, older adults can reach optimal protein intake without relying solely on animal products. Breakfast is a particularly strategic opportunity. Many older adults start their day with toast, cereal, or tea, foods low in protein. Yet research shows that evenly distributing protein across the day, rather than loading it all into dinner, is more effective for muscle maintenance. Swapping cow's milk for fortified soy milk in morning coffee or cereal adds protein without any extra effort. Replacing eggs with a tofu scramble delivers not just similar texture and flavor, but also the amino acids and phytonutrients that support longevity. For those who prefer something quick, a soy protein smoothie blended with berries and flax seeds provides a high-protein, antioxidant-rich start. Lunch can also be reimagined. Instead of a chicken sandwich, try a tempeh wrap with vegetables and hummus. Tempeh is particularly valuable because it is fermented, meaning its nutrients are more bioavailable and it supports gut health. Another system closely linked with aging, a salad topped with edamame beans, not only boosts protein but also adds fiber which supports digestion and helps regulate blood sugar. These small substitutions made consistently accumulate into powerful biological signals that reinforce muscle synthesis and reduce inflammation. Dinner often remains the largest meal of the day for older adults, and it is an ideal time to integrate soy in ways that feel familiar and satisfying. Grilled tofu marinated in herbs can replace fish or chicken. Stir fries with vegetables and tempeh provide flavor, texture, and protein. Even for those who prefer not to give up meat entirely, adding half tofu and half chicken in a dish reduces the animal protein load while maintaining taste and variety. The goal is not rigidity but balance. Soy becomes a reliable anchor that helps ensure daily protein targets are met without overtaxing the cardiovascular or metabolic systems. Snacking is another overlooked area. Many older adults snack on crackers, sweets, or fruit which may provide energy but not muscle-sustaining protein. A handful of roasted edamame, a soy protein bar, or even a cup of soy yogurt can make the difference between falling short of protein needs and meeting them. These small moments throughout the day are opportunities to send the body the right signals to build, repair, and stay resilient. For those who find it difficult to chew or who struggle with appetite, soy protein powders can be especially helpful. They can be mixed into soups, shakes, or even oatmeal. Because they are concentrated, they deliver significant protein without requiring large portions. This is particularly valuable for people who may not feel hungry enough to eat big meals but still need the amino acids to maintain muscle. It's also worth addressing variety. While soy is powerful, no single food should dominate the diet. Mixing soy with other plant proteins, such as lentils, peas, and beans, ensures a broad spectrum of nutrients and prevents monotony. Think of soy as the cornerstone, but build around it with other whole foods. This approach not only covers protein needs, but also maximizes fiber, antioxidants, and micronutrients that contribute to overall longevity. Practical integration also involves mindset. Many people in their 70s and 80s grew up with eggs, meat, and dairy as the cultural default. Shifting toward plant proteins can feel unfamiliar or even uncomfortable at first. The key is not to frame it as giving something up, but as gaining something: more strength, more resilience, more years of independence. Food is not just fuel, it is a daily choice that shapes how we age. By reframing soy as a powerful tool for vitality rather than simply an alternative, older adults are more likely to embrace it. Finally, integration works best when paired with action. Protein alone cannot maintain muscle. It needs the signal of resistance exercise to direct those amino acids into muscle fibers. Even light strength training, such as lifting small weights or using resistance bands, makes protein more effective. This synergy is essential. Soy protein provides the building blocks, while movement tells the body where to place them. Together, they form a simple but powerful longevity strategy. Practical integration, then, is not about perfection or strict rules. It is about creating daily patterns that consistently provide the signals your body needs to preserve strength and vitality. A cup of soy milk at breakfast, tofu or tempeh at lunch or dinner, a soy shake after exercise. These are not radical changes, but they represent the difference between drifting into sarcopenia and actively resisting it, between losing independence and preserving it. Over weeks, months, and years, these choices accumulate, shaping a body that is not just surviving after 70 but thriving.